What's up, guys? It's Drac and welcome to another Top 5 Fridays. And we're back at it like a bad habit with the best of the year. And there were some pretty good blasters this year. I'd like to formally congratulate the mothership on their return to the top 5 list. And what a return it is. There's actually some pretty good stuff on here. Let's get into it, but we got to start with our honorable mentions. Coming in with our first honorable mention, we have the Hasbro Aliens Pulse Rifle Nerf Limited blah 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 collaboration. And frankly, just for Aliens, for everything that they did for sci-fi, for everything that they did for Han Rudy and horror in general, like, what a franchise. It's a great piece. It's a really cool collector's piece. And in this case, it's a pretty decent blaster. There are a lot of things that could have been done to make it better. I think it's relatively low performing, and for something that costs as much as it does and has the kind of theming that it does, the color scheme is a little lacking. I think that the color scheme is the weakest point for the blaster, but that's nothing that can't be replicated by a talented modder or painter. And frankly, I think that between the performance and the paint job, it should be an excellent candidate for a mod guide. It's a little expensive, but it's a really cool piece that's very faithful to the original in terms of its shell profile. And for that reason, I think that it deserves to be on the list. We're definitely going to see these become more valuable as time goes on for cosplay, for collectors, for everything. This is a really cool blaster. Our second honorable mention is something that realistically could have, would have, should have been on the list. But I can't in good faith put it on the list because it's not technically a blaster of 2022, right? This is the Game Face Tryon, which is a slim pump action Springer with a lot of really great features. It's smooth, it hits hard, it's got an adjustable stock that reminds me of like real Steel World. Like it has a lot going for it. But these are only in the hands of 5 or 6 people who went to End War. And while they were debuted at End War, and I've no doubt they wanted to launch as soon as they could around that date, they're just not on shelves yet. And in a world where you can't buy one for any price, it's hard for me to in good faith recommend them as a top blaster of the year. I hope that next year is so incredibly exciting that they don't make the list. But there's a very good chance that this will be a contender in next year's list just because it's a really solid blaster and I'm excited to do more with it in the coming months and year. But for the purposes of this list, the Game Face Tryon is an honorable mention because it's in that really funky space where it soft launched and then pulled back. But it's such an exciting and frankly well anticipated release at this point that it would be remiss not to mention it on the list at all. So Pulse Rifle, Tryon, one that you could buy but isn't quite all there, and one that you can't buy but seems to be. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is the Nerf AccuRival Pathfinder. The Pathfinder being effectively the alpha trooper of the Nerf AccuRival line. And between the AccuRival aesthetic being so incredibly sharp, with clean colors, with a clean aesthetic, with clean ergo, it's just phenomenal. And then the Pathfinder being the best of the bunch, it had to make the list. Not only is it affordable, it also carries Rival forth another year, which we're always happy to see. It seems like every year Rival has to kind of fight for its spot on the shelves, which is crazy. It is such a good product line. I really like Rival. I like what it does for low FPS. I like what it does for ricochet shots. I like a lot about it. I've liked it for a really long time. And it's always a pleasure to see it perpetuate. And in this case, we had some really, really great candidates in the AccuRival line, the Pathfinder being the best of the bunch. It also helps, given that this is my personal list with personal bias, that we've sold almost 1,000 kits for the Pathfinder this year. And our kit just makes it that much sharper, that much better. It also kind of extends it in some ways and lengthens it for those taller foam flingers out there. But if you haven't tried the Pathfinder yet, if you slept on it, it's well worth taking a look at, well worth picking one up. It's just a really cool pump action Rival blaster. I think the best one we've seen since the Hades. Let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is the Nerf Moto Blitz, and I actually had one in the office that I could talk about, and I can talk about all the things that I like about it. It's not overtly overpriced. It's pretty fairly priced, and it's been on sale multiple times. And it's got all of the best things that you want in a semi-auto flywheel blaster. It's a Raven, first off, which is pretty cool. So you've got bullpup mag loading there and pretty standard performance coming out of that. It's got a built-in scope, which is either a huge plus or a huge minus, depending on who you are. But then it's got a rail so you can put a scope on your scope in case you like scoping, as well as rails on both sides. This is truly an elite styled blaster at its core. But the thing that makes it really special and puts it on the list is it's got this pump action master key. It's an actual air blaster in it. And frankly, it's just so refreshing to see an air blaster come out of a Hasbro factory these days. They used to do it better than anybody else, and now we've got them back. There was a lot of legal dicery that led to them being on hiatus for so long, but the fact that they're willing to dip their toe back into the water and in such a compelling form factor as a undermounted 4-dart master key blaster makes this an amazing HVZ blaster, because it really gives you a quite literal panic button that you can press in the event that you need to pop a zombie while you're reloading your primary or what have you. It's also got a good shell profile. It's about as compact as it could be doing this. It's just a terrifically well-designed blaster. And in a world where a lot of the Elite 2.0 design seems to be taking a step backwards, this thing is moving forwards into the future, bringing old technology in a new light into a platform with efficient, cost-effective, like primary class blaster with like really, really nice features. It's hard to say that this isn't one of the best blasters Hasbro's made in years, which definitely secures it a slot in this year's top 5. Number 3? Number 3 gets Dart Zone on the list with the Dart Zone Max Tomcat. This Target exclusive, whether you got it for $8 a couple weeks ago or you paid the full $70 for it, is actually a pretty serious deal. So long before they were renowned for the pro blasters in the form of Walmart, Target, and then of course online exclusives, something that Dart Zone did really well that they never quite got, I think, enough credit for is they made these awesome revolver blasters with like huge drums in the form of the Magnum and then the Magnum 2.0 and stuff like that. And it was really, they were the budget option for having a lot of onboard ammo capacity in a form factor that still delivered very good performance at a very reasonable price. And that's sort of what the Tomcat is doing for the half-length area kind of market here. It's a high-performance blaster that uses exclusively half-lengths, does a really good job. It's a clean pump-action Springer, and it has unbelievably high onboard ammo capacity. A 40-round drum for half darts? Are you kidding me? It does all of that in about the smallest package that it can, leading to it being a tactical primary that's as at home on an SCNC field as it would be powered down for an HVZ game. The ability to reload off the field is really something that goes underrated in a lot of contexts, but depending on how you play and what groups you play with, it is very nice to be able to top off your drum at any point that you're in cover and you pick up 3 or 4 half darts and just pop, pop, pop. And it lets you keep playing without maybe all of the bulk of a loadout. And if you're like me, you really only have 2 modes, which is hyper competitive, super efficient loadout, or absolute goofballery mad lad loadout. And the Tomcat fits into both of those, but I think it's more at home in the goofballery mad lad category, just because there's something very nice about walking onto a field with a dump pouch and a blaster, and that's it. No mags, no problems. I really like the Tomcat. I know that it's universally well received, and for that reason, I think that it deserves its spot right there in the middle of the pack as number 3 on our top 5 blasters of the year. Number 2 is the Needler, and I know, Drac is a Halo fanboy, but it's my list. Gosh darn it, it's my top 5 blasters list, and the Needler is really good. Now, we do have to set aside the controversy of there were people getting GameStop discounted models weeks before people were getting their full price pre-orders, which is yet another reason to not pre-order anything, realistically. Don't pre-order anything. Don't pre-order nothing. Reject capitalism. But that aside, the Needler is an amazing blaster. Whether you get it for $80 or you end up paying $100 and something, it is a really faithful representation of possibly Halo's most iconic weapon. In foam flinging fun factor, it's an AG, which is a little exciting. It's a full auto blaster, just like the one from the game, but what really puts it over the top, and I'll throw a clip in from my review here, is in the dark, the lights, the sounds, the fact that it is a passive display mode for your trophy room or your man cave or your gaming setup is just unbelievably thoughtful. It's not just a blaster, it's not just a prop, it's in between, and it's as opposed to a lot of them where you kind of like, you pay for the prop and sometimes it shoots Nerf darts or it shoots Nerf darts really well and it looks nothing like the original, or the paint's wrong or the ergo's wrong or whatever. This is a unique and very special case where it's doing both pretty well. It's not a high-performance blaster, but you didn't buy it to be a high-performance blaster. It's a full-auto representation of the Needler. It fires Nerf darts at your nephew, and then it sits on your wall and impresses your brother. It's like a pretty cool best of both worlds thing, and a very faithful representation of the thing from the game. If this is what we have to expect from Nerf Limited going forward, maybe I will sucker up and buy a pre-order for one of the future ones, just because this is really, really cool and a much better representation of what a special, select, limited edition blaster could be, should be, from the people who theoretically should be the best at making those things. It helps that they buy out all the licenses for the things worth doing. Anyway, it gives me high hopes for things in the future, like the Jinx Sawbones. I'm hoping that things get better and we get more Needlers and less Mandalorian pulse rifles. Moving on. Now, with all the requisite disclaimers out of the way, the number one slot is going to be debated. It's debated every year, and people love to disagree, but the number one blaster is the 2.1. It's hard to argue it's not the 2.1. For under $100, you get the best pistol we have ever had in the hobby. There's just, in my opinion, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I thought that the 2.0 was great, and I liked how it was compact, and I liked that it was actually holsterable and fit the real definition of a sidearm. The biggest pain with it was you had to use the goofy speed loaders or you had to load off the field, neither one of which was a deal breaker. It is a solid, compact powerhouse, but there's nothing quite like being able to drop your magazines and reload quickly from extra mags on your belt. And the three-gunner in me can't get over how smooth everything on it is. Yes, it's huge, but also it's not Desert Eagle huge, right? I mean, it's, in terms of 50 caliber mag and grip pistols, it is a serious sidearm that works like a sidearm. It does everything that you need it to do in that arena while simultaneously getting amazing FPS and coming with everything that you need out of the box. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's a little pricey, especially for a sidearm, but it's not just a sidearm. It's a sidearm with a muzzle attachment with a built-in thigh rig holster and extra magazines. And by the time you bought a basic pistol and all of that value on top of it, you'd be right in that price range and it wouldn't be as proprietary. So I absolutely dig this thing. I think that the only thing that hasn't happened that I want to see happen with the 2.1 is I'd like to see Hobby Designs take advantage of the fact that these are some of the cheapest magazines out there and some of the best. The multi-lip setup on the mag means that you can very easily use them in these kind of high pusher, like large pusher setups. Now, it doesn't work explicitly as well with the turnaround system, which is where a lot of hobby grade blasters are, but I honestly am happy to walk away from the turnaround system. I want to develop something that either uses flywheels with these magazines or an even more cartoonish hand cannon where it delivers higher FPS in something a la, Rainbow Pistol plunger volume. But all those are fantasies for a guy who has way more time at his workbench. I hope that the mags get adopted just because of how cheap they are and how easy they are to get your hands on. For some reason, these are competing with the worker pistol mags, which are, quite frankly, some of the worst pistol mags out there. Not just in terms of their durability, but also their reliability. I haven't seen anybody who's happy with them. People are really happy with the Nightingale, and because they really like the Nightingale, they're willing to tolerate the magazines that it comes with. But somewhere out there's got to be a solution where we can use these magazines in a flywheel build. I think that would be very, very sweet. But for me, a guy who likes to slide into cover, curl out of it, pop, peek, bunker, etc., there's nothing quite like having a rapidly reloadable pistol that's this smooth, this comfortable, and this easy. It also was a major part of both the first and second place Foam Pro Tour strategies. And so I think that it's easy to say that it can hang. But that's just my take, and that's just my list. If you have a different version of the top 5 blasters of the year, I'd love to hear it in the comment section below. I think that we had a really great discussion in last week's top 5 worst blasters, where a few people agreed and disagreed on various points, and I'm always happy to acknowledge solid points in the comments down below. So I will happily thumbs up some of those as we chug-a-lug along. But thank you guys so much for watching. As we get closer and closer to the holiday season, again, all I can do is tell you that I hope that your holidays, no matter what you celebrate, no matter what your race, religion, creed is, are merry and bright and ideally spent with people that you like spending time with. And if you don't have people that you like spending time with, you can hang out with me on Twitch and I will say nice things about you. But I'm playing a bunch of stuff on Twitch recently. The current limited format on Arena is really good, and I'm getting back into Fortnite for reasons that I can't get into professionally. But turns out Fortnite with no building is actually a lot better than Fortnite with building, because I'm not very good at Fortnite. But that's my 10 cents. My 2 cents is free. As always, happy holidays. Much love. Blast on. Drac out.